Hi, this is Karen at Karen's Creative. Thanks for joining me. As we wrap up 2013, I want to talk about my favorite all-time crocheted Afghan. This pattern is fairly old. I made my first Afghan from it in the mid to late 1970s, so the pattern itself is probably older than some of you. Still, I consider it a classic, and I could happily make another one of these at some time in the future. I just love the way it looks, and it provides me with some variety too. Let me show you what I love about this pattern. First, I like the overall look, which is a significant departure from the standard granny squares Afghan. Second, I like the variety as I crochet. I can make just 7 small blocks to get started, and then I can start crocheting them together and working in rounds. After 6 rounds, I can make more blocks. Now, you may find it easier to make a lot of blocks from the beginning, and that's okay too. Just do whatever makes you happy. The important thing is to make sure you have enough yarn to complete the whole Afghan before you get started. That way you won't be caught short after you've committed to a color scheme. The pattern tells you how much yarn you'll need for the finished size. Be sure to allow a little extra if you plan to make your finished Afghan larger than the stated size. The third thing I love about this pattern is that the blocks are crocheted together, not sewn. I posted an earlier video about how to do this on April 19th. If you'd like a demo of how to do that, please visit my blog at the address shown on the screen and go to the April 19 post. I find this technique a lot of fun, and I love the results I get. I, for one, hate to sew my blocks together, and I don't have to do that with this pattern. Now for my fourth and final point, I love the possibility for variation with this pattern. The printed pattern calls for just 3 colors, and I've made 3 Afghans with 3 different color scheme trios. I have one of them here in brown, orange, and yellow. I made this piece at least 20 or 25 years ago, but this current Afghan I made about 5 or 6 years ago with a multitude of colors. I wanted a piece that was bright and cheery and reminded me of a flower garden. I chose muted or dusty colors based on a palette I'd seen about the 1930s. While that color scheme might not be suitable for a lot of things, I found it soothing for this particular piece. I also made a significant departure from what I normally do, and I used a variegated yarn for my joining color. This particular one has greens and browns that reminded me of what I'd find in an actual garden of grass and soil. I thought it would provide a great ground for my flowers, which are the squares in this piece. My greatest challenge in using this many colors was to decide how to space my many colored squares, or what the printed pattern calls motifs. I wanted them to be spaced out as far as possible so that identical colors didn't fall together. I actually have no set pattern here. I just placed the colors wherever I wanted them. Now, it really doesn't matter that much, I suppose, as one could easily find clusters of flowers together in the same color. Still, it was important to me at the time, and I labored for a long time trying to space out my colors. You don't have this problem, of course, if you use the 3 colors the pattern calls for. I also had to decide how large to make my finished Afghan. I found that I had yarn left over after making all the squares in rows, and I wanted this Afghan a bit larger than the pattern stated. So I needed to make additional border rows to enlarge it. I haven't measured the exact dimensions, but this Afghan will work on both a twin and full-size bed. I even had it on my queen-size bed for a time, but found that when my husband and I were both in bed, we really didn't have enough Afghan width to keep us both warm. Here's just a small tip for you. Width is something to consider when you're making an Afghan for a bed. You should allow for the height when the bed is occupied. Naturally, someone sleeping in the bed means you need more width than when your finished piece is laying flat on the surface of the bed. Consider how large the occupants of the bed will be, and then add extra width to account for that. Finally, I departed from the pattern once again by adding a picot border around my finished Afghan. This was a matter of personal taste, and you can add one or not as you choose. So that's it. I've really enjoyed this Granny's Garden pattern over the years, and if you like it too, please visit my blog for a link to the published pattern on the web. Thanks for joining me. If you like what you've seen in the video, I do hope you'll consider subscribing to one or both of my YouTube channel and my blog. Please accept my very best wishes for a safe, healthy, and happy New Year 2014. Hope to see you again soon. Bye now.